Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Prince Automation Destination. This side Prince. I hope you are doing well. So today we are gonna talk about how to explain test automation framework for UI-based automation framework related to Cucumber, and we are going to talk about the tips and tricks. So why I'm discussing this particular topic? Because I see, based on my experience with more than 350 candidates I have interviewed so far, that people struggle in explaining their test automation framework. However, this is the key for any interview, and this is the entry point for any interview, as this is most of the time is the first question by the interviewer, right? So it becomes important that you explain it well, and if you'll be able to explain it well, this opens up the door for the selection, right? So it's vital for any interview. So let us discuss about how a typical BDD Cucumber based framework look like, right? So whenever we'll be creating a project, like meaning when we'll be designing a framework, first of all we'll be creating a project. So project could be of type Maven or of type Gradle, right? If it is of type Maven, then form.xml will be generated. If it is of type Gradle, then build.gradle will be generated. So let us talk about Maven, and you can relate it for Gradle as well, right? In case you want me to create specific to Gradle, please do let me know. I'll be creating a separate video on that, right? And if we have Cucumber integration with TestNG, which is also trending in the market, so we can use testng.xml as well, right? Then as soon as we create a Maven project, we will have a folder structure, right? And we will have src main section and src test section. Generally, this src main section and src test section are utilized by developers when developers are working. So in src main section, they write their application code, and in src test section, they write the unit test cases, right? But being a test automation engineer, we utilize src main section to write the core logic, like pages we can define driver manager, right? Utilities, global constants which are accessible from src main section as well as src test. Here we can define the resources in the src main resources which are accessible from src main Java. Then in src test, we will be having things mostly related to test, right? So we will have step defs, right? Test utilities, where we'll be writing different utilities, right? Like reading the test data, screenshot utility, right? And then test constants which are accessible only within the test section, right? Then runner also will be utilizing, as this is Cucumber, so we will have a runner that we need to define, which would be of class and of can be integrated with JUnit or TestNG. If I'll talk about JUnit, then JUnit 4 as well as JUnit 5, and TestNG for better utilizing the parallel execution. Then reporter, for reporter purpose, extend report and chain test report, if we want to integrate, there is a direct option that we can provide in Cucumber options, and we can utilize it. Then src test resources, here we can define the features, right? So what is features? So in Cucumber, we write the test cases in the feature files, while in TestNG we write the test cases on the test classes, and we define the test cases using @ test annotation, right? So if I'll talk about Cucumber, so we write the feature file, inside that we write the scenario or scenario outline to define the test cases, right? So in case you are not aware what is BDD Cucumber, I would request you to please check out my playlist where I have explained step by step what is BDD Cucumber and how to utilize it feature. I'll be sharing the link of same in icon. You can check it out, right? So we can define features, then we can define the test data, like it could be Excel, JSON, right? Then we can define config.properties, right? Like here we can define different parameters, like whether we want to execute test cases in headless mode, whether we want to execute in Chrome browser, Firefox browser. So these sort of features we can include, or parameters we can include here, right? In bomb.xml, generally we write the dependencies or libraries which we are going to use across src main Java or src test Java, right? So this is how a Cucumber framework look like, right? Now jumping onto what are the tips and tricks, right? So whenever you are asked, explain your test automation framework, you should take some time, right? And you should have your framework in mind. You should remember it. So whenever you're explaining it, the first thing is you should be very well structured, and you should be organized, meaning the answer should be organized. You should not go here and there. You should go step by step, right? First, for example, you can talk about the project, whether it is TestNG, BDD, or hybrid. Then you can talk about the tech stack, Java, Maven, Selenium, TestNG, right? Which type of reporting you're using, whether you have integration with CI/CD. So these are the tech stack that you can talk about. The main thing is, which I see based on my experience, people start talking about pages, page object model, right? But it doesn't make sense. First of all, we should explain the project structure and how we get the project structure. First of all, we'll be creating the project. So we can talk about the project. Which type of project is it? Is it a Maven project or a Gradle project? Then we can talk about, as a result of creating a Maven project, we will have pom.xml. If it is Gradle, then we'll have build.gradle, right? Then we can talk about what is the purpose of pom.xml or build.gradle, right? Where we can define the dependencies which we are going to utilize. We can talk about the plugins like Chauffeur plugin for the execution of test cases, compiler plugin, right? So we can talk about this, right? Then we can talk about the different folder structure that we have. So generally we will have src main Java, src main resources, src test Java, and src test resources, right? So it's up to us where we want to write our code. So we can utilize src main Java as well, or we can utilize src test Java as well. So some people, you will find that they are not writing anything in src main Java, and they're writing everything like pages and everything within the src test Java, right? So it's up to you if you want to write in src main Java or src test Java, right? Depending on the need. Then once you have explained the folder structure, then you can talk about the packages, right? So you need to be explicit which, like for example, pages, right, belong to which folder structure, whether it belong to src main Java or src test Java. So you can like explain step by step. Maybe you can start with src main Java, that in src main Java I have pages, then I have driver manager, I have some like global utilities, right? Or I have like whatever you have in src main Java, you can talk about. And then you can talk about in src test Java, I have test specific utilities, I have written the test classes, right? Or if because if you're writing test cases in TestNG, then it would be there. If we don't have TestNG, then this won't be there, right? If you have any listeners, right? So in Cucumber also we can write the listeners in order to get the step level status, right? If you have reporter section, you can explain that part as well, right? Then coming to the resources. So in the resources section, you can talk about how you're reading the test data. Even though like in Cucumber, we can pass the data within the scenario itself. We can pass it as a string, we can pass it as an integer, we can pass it as a data table as well. We can utilize scenario outline. So you can talk about all these things, right? And then you can talk about configuration properties, where we are defining the like properties file, right? Then feature files, scenario outline, data table, Pico container, right? Then you can talk about how you're executing the test cases. So in Cucumber, we can, if it has integration with TestNG, right? So we can integrate it, we can execute from TestNG as well, right? TestNG or XML as well. We can execute from Maven as well, or we can directly run from the runner as well, right? So this is how we can talk about the execution, meaning you need to talk about this as well, right? So as soon as execution is completed, reporting would be generated, right? So you can talk about how your reports are getting generated, how it is configured. So you should have in and out understanding of how it is configured and how you can customize it, right? Then at last, what you can talk about is, you can talk about the key features. You can talk about parallel execution. So this is the tricky question, because in Cucumber, generally we face the challenge of parallel execution. So for this purpose, we generally integrate it with TestNG, right? But nowadays I have heard that JUnit 5 also have this capability, but I have not explored yet, right? So for parallel execution, TestNG is utilized, and I have utilized TestNG only so far, right? Then we can talk about field test case execution, right? Where we can utilize rerun plugin. If we are using Cucumber with TestNG, then we can talk about iRetry analyzer as well if you're utilizing. If you have integration with test measurement tool like Jira Jafire, Testel, so that also you can talk about headless execution on grade, the different browser support you have, right? And then you can talk about the CI/CD integration, right? So this also becomes a demand in the market that test engineers should be very well aware on. How you can design your test automation pipeline, what could be the stages of a pipeline. So I see that people struggle here. They do mention that they have worked on Jenkins, they have worked on GitLab, but they struggle in explaining what exactly is happening, which tool they are using, how they're executing the test cases, which commands are utilized, right? And where exactly the execution is happening. So these are the things you should have in your mind before going for any interview. So these are the tips and trips that you can follow, right? Now, previously we covered the typical test automation framework at TestNG, right? So if I talk about like the comparison, right? So if you will compare, right? So let us discuss about the comparison here, right? So you will find that in SRC in Java, in TestNG, this is TestNG, this is Cucumber, right? So we will have pages, we will have driver manager, utilities, global constants. Resources would be like this. So instead of test, we will have step defs, right? And then you will see runner section as well. So here we can write our own runner, right? If I talk about TestNG, so we don't have features here, while in case of BDD Cucumber, we will have features here, right? So this is what is the difference, right? So only difference is, like in TestNG, we can write the test cases in test class with @ test annotation on the methods, while in Cucumber, we define it with the scenarios within the feature file, and in the background there is a step def, which is the mapping between the gherkin step, that is a plain English, with the Java code, right? So this is the additional layer that we have in BDD Cucumber, right? Now talk about how Cucumber is integrated with TestNG, because we discussed about it. So I just wanted to give a glimpse of it. In case you want to understand at low level, I have already created a video. You can check out the same in 𝐼-icon, right? So this is how Cucumber is integrated with TestNG, right? So you see, we create a class and then we extend abstract TestNG Cucumber test, right? And as soon as we extend this, right, so we need to override this particular scenarios method, and here we need to make it as parallel equal to true in case we want to implement parallel execution, right? If it would be false, then these test cases will never run in parallel, right? Now talking about how we can execute from TestNG, right? So in TestNG XML, under test section, we will be defining the classes. So instead of pointing to test classes, because we won't be having the test classes in case of BDD Cucumber, we will be pointing to this particular UI tester. And in the tag section, we can define the particular test case. So whatever the tags, whatever the test cases which matches with this particular tag, they will run in parallel, right? And here we can define the thread count, we can define parallel equal to methods or whatever we want to define, right? So this is how we can utilize, right? We talked about rerun plugin as well. So here we can define the rerun plugin as well within Cucumber options in the plugin section. With this, what will happen is after execution of test cases, all the failed test cases will be dumped onto this particular place. Then we can write our own runner, different runner, and we can run the test cases from this field.txt. So this is also one of the interview question, like how to re-execute your field test case. And talking about extend report integration, as we said that Cucumber by default provides it integration from this particular section. So we need to add this dependency in pom.xml. And then we need to provide this particular section, and we need to do some more configuration like extend.properties we have to provide in SRC test resources section. Then we'll have to provide extend config.xml, right? So this is how we can utilize. So we don't need to write the custom implementation, we can use it. So extend.properties and extend config.xml, these are just for the customization purpose, right? So this is what I wanted to cover, guys, as part of current discussion. Thank you for watching. I would request you to please like, sense.